What happened? Firestar demanded, halting in front of his daughter. What did you find out? Did you find Leafpool? Sandstorm added. Other cats gathered around, echoing Sandstorm's question. Some of them mentioned Crowfeather. Leafpool's secret wasn't a secret any longer. Cinderpelt must have been forced to tell her clanmates everything she knew. It was Brambleclaw who explained. Her scent trail led into Windclan territory, so we went to visit their camp. Cinderpelt limped up just then, in time to hear Brambleclaw's words. Did you speak to her? Brambleclaw shook his head. She wasn't there. She and Crowfeather have already left the territory. We followed their trail with a couple of the Windclan cats, but we lost it in the hills. They're gone. No. Cinderpelt's voice was a rough whisper. Terrible fear dulled her eyes. Firestar and Sandstorm moved closer together until their pelts brushed. We've lost her, Sandstorm mewed softly. The whole clan has lost her, Firestar meowed. Squirrelflight wanted to wail out loud. Leafpool had lost so much, too. She must have loved Crowfeather very much to give up everything for him. Would I do that for Ashfeather? Squirrelflight wondered. Somehow, she didn't think she would. For Brambleclaw? She blinked, realizing that was a question she couldn't answer. My name is Spencer Grant, and you're listening to Fourtrees, a Warrior Cats retrospective something podcast. This week I am joined by nobody, actually, because this week I had to read Twilight, which is a book that, in my opinion, is not very good, and apparently this is an opinion that's shared by quite a lot of people. So, in order to maintain the community-ish nature of Fourtrees, or at least the conversational aspect of Fourtrees, I've decided to invent time travel real quick and just talk to myself from like 90 minutes in the future. I feel like that might be a pretty good method of eschewing some of the other issues that this book has, and at least talking through my thoughts, and maybe my thoughts after I've had this conversation's thoughts on the book Twilight. So this will probably get a little bit meta, and for that I apologize. But fact of the matter is, there's nobody else who wants to talk about this book. And if I want to get to Power of Three, which I definitely do, I'm gonna have to power through this one at the very least, you know? So, hey Spencer, how are you doing, and how has your day been so far?
Do you want me to be, like, honest or tactful?
I think that honesty would work pretty well, to be honest. I would like you to be I would like you to speak your mind, let's just say that.
Alright. My day has been a bit of a gonger, you know?
Oh, really?
I've had, like... Okay, so earlier this morning, you were there for this.
Yeah.
Earlier this morning, we had a guy come into the house and,
yeah.
He was doing a look around, you know, because he wants to rent the new room.
Yeah.
And... I think I heard him say something about having a dog, and that's like kind of concerning to me because, you know, I have cynophobia.
Yeah, me too, actually.
I don't want to like be the guy who's like, yeah, sorry, landlord, you know, this dude can't live there because I have a psychological fear of his pet.
No, totally.
But like also at the same time, I extremely don't want to live with a dog, and so like I'm kind of trying to wrestle, like, should I talk to the landlord about this and, you know, turn down a perfectly cromulent person,
cromulent,
you know,
is not a word,
potential tenant, or should I, you know, actually speak up about the dog? Because that's actually worrying me quite a bit.
No, I totally.
You know, and then also there's the visa stuff, which is just a mess.
Oh God, it's a mess.
We have to go to Wales later today.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I'm looking forward to it in one way, and I'm not looking forward to it in another way, because I haven't really left the house since like October. At least not to do groceries. And granted, this is considered essential travel, and I don't really intend to have any fun while I'm over there in Wales, but, like, I don't know, it's just going to be a bit messy, you know?
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
So, here's my, I guess, big question. For starters, Thank you for sharing all of that incredibly personal information on this Lighthearted Warrior Cats podcast. You know, feel really great about that. You're opening up to me.
Gotta keep
and for second starters, could you talk a little bit more about your cynophobia? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't really know that much about, and deserves kind of a center stage, at least in this corner of the world.
I mean, for starters, I feel like you're just saying this because you also have cynophobia and you want to feel special. But I will talk about this because it's something that I don't really get to talk about that much. Certainly not anymore. Like now that we're not allowed outside and we have to stay inside for the good of the ethical consideration of other people. It's something that I don't have to talk about or confront quite as much. But I do feel that it's pretty important, especially like going to be for the first weeks when everybody gets out, and that's going to be the world for a little while.
Okay.
So cynophobia, for those of you who do not know, is a psychological fear of dogs. And I know that's like, I don't know, it's a really hard. First of all, who doesn't like dogs? I don't. I actually really dislike dogs. I think that on a like aesthetic level, they're very unpleasant for me to look at. I think that they are extremely ugly, and like on an ethical level, I take a lot of problems with a lot of different breeds of dogs that are like they're bred to be big or good at hunting, and it's like, well, okay, cool. That's like not okay though, because like these things suffer really serious health problems.
Yeah, big dogs especially have awful
even
life
ones that I don't like. But I mean, with the that's me rationalizing it, right? It's easy to rationalize something that you don't like because you already start with a conclusion. I don't like this, and you can find things to support your argument and ignore things that don't support your argument by just saying, well, I have a phobia, so that doesn't matter. But I'm afraid of dogs, and that's a really weird facet for a person like me to have, because I feel like that's a thing in amongst pet ownership. Right, they always say that like, oh, people who own cats are, they're never like, oh, I hate dogs, but people who own dogs are like, oh, I hate cats. And I really hate to be like the exception to that rule, because like I can't really be around dogs. It's not that I hate them; they just make me super uncomfortable.
Yeah, I feel that.
And it's
weird.
I don't know. Like this is it's really frustrating too, because like a lot of people don't believe it. Like a lot of people are like, what? How could that possibly be true? Like, I'm sure that there's an exception for my dog, because my dog obviously is the cutest, most well-behaved thing in the world.
Oh,
and
I totally feel that.
The answer to that is no. Like, everybody, upon hearing that, like, I have a phobia of dogs, like, half of the people that I know will, like,
literally
take out a picture of their puppies, and they'll be like, well, not this dog, right? And it's like, yeah, absolutely that dog. Yeah. Do you know how a phobia works? Like, nobody's going around showing pictures of spiders to people with arachnophobia. Maybe people are doing that now, but they're just doing that because they want to be, like, cool in counterculture, and spiders are kind of coming back in. But, like,
it's
I don't know,
ridiculous.
If somebody's got, like, what's it called, pareidolia or thalassophobia, nobody's going to, like, pull out a picture of the deep ocean or a hand with a bunch of holes in it, because that's disrespectful. That's, like, incredibly disrespectful. You're basically taking advantage of a psychological mechanism somebody else has in their brain and using it to, gain some clout in this social conversation.
It's the worst.
You can't be afraid of all dogs because my dog is very cute. No, I'm afraid of all dogs. That's how it works. Like, there are some dogs that I feel less uncomfortable around, for sure. Like, if I'm around a German Shepherd or a Husky, like, that's fine, because those dogs...
Well, I mean, they're like, kind of dangerous, aren't they?
Those two are fine, because those are actually pretty dangerous dogs to be comfortable around. But, like, with a Chihuahua, that's, like, extremely uncomfortable to me. If somebody's like, oh, check out this pug, I'm like, I don't want to check out that pug. That thing is, like, going to die an early death because of its breeding, because people think that it's cute that it has a bunch of wrinkles. And for starters, it's not cute. Ugly things aren't cute. I don't understand that either, but whatever. I'm getting beyond my point. My point is, I have a fear of dogs. Nobody respects this, and I don't know how I'm going to reconcile that if it turns out that I'm living with somebody who has a dog, because that means that I'm going to have to like put up with that every day. I'm going to feel like I'm trapped in my own home, which isn't really a comfortable environment for me. And
definitely not.
You know what? I'm going to freaking text my landlord right now. Actually, you text your landlord right now, because I guess I didn't do it back then while I was you, so I'm going to have to do it right now. Give me, like 2 seconds to do some texting, and I'll get back to you.
Sorry, wait, so how... You bring this up now. I'm kind of curious. What do you mean I didn't do it back when... Sorry, you didn't do it back when you were me. Because, like, I'm still not entirely certain how the mechanisms of this time travel works.
Okay.
Is it like a Back to the Future kind of thing?
It's not
like
a Back to the Future kind of thing. Basically, the way that it works is I am you from the future. So I remember from my past that you did not text your landlord, which means that if you were to text your landlord now, I wouldn't exist.
Oh, okay,
right?
Okay.
Because otherwise I wouldn't.
No, I get. All right, I get it.
Yeah.
It's like a Bill and Ted rules.
It's exactly Bill and Ted rules.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we spent like 8 minutes nattering about nothing. Do you want to start talking about the book now? This
Do we have
Twilight?
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, probably.
All right. So a congregation of Starclan cats informs Cinderpelt that she is imminently going to die. And then Cinderpelt's like, well, that's not fair. I didn't get a turn on the Xbox. I didn't get to be a warrior this time around. And Starclan is like, all right, we'll see about that, huh?
Later that morning, Squirrelflight voices her concerns to Leafpool about Brambleclaw not cutting ties with Hawkfrost after Hawkfrost's presence at the Windclan Capitol Hill riots. And can I say, this part pissed me off.
Yo,
this
same.
is extremely reasonable.
It's the worst.
And then Leafpool is like,
oh my God.
She's like, well, whatever. You know, she validates Squirrelflight's concerns. She's like, lots of people were at those riots, so it was fine.
So, then Brambleclaw wants to be deputy, and Ashford wants to be Squirrelflight's new boyfriend, and Leafpool keeps having these, like, comically close calls where other clan members risk the chance of discovering her feelings for Crowfeather. And also, a big part of the early book is that Firestar just won't leave Windclan alone. He really wants to check in on them all the time.
He, like, refuses to give them the space that they need. It's really irritating.
Yeah.
But anyways, while Leafpool is out looking for Crowfeather, Sorreltail drops by, and she's like, hey, it's me, Sorreltail. How are you doing? I'm kind of expecting Brackenford's children. And Leafpool, who is, like, extremely jealous by this, is like, she's like, I'll show stupid Sorreltail. I'm gonna have kids that are, like, way cooler than hers. And then Firestar goes to, like, Windclan to say hello. And One Star says hello back by saying that, actually, Firestar, I don't agree with Tallstar's dying wish anymore. Can you go away, please?
So, like, later at the gathering, all of the cats are, like, exploring the island a little bit, and it's really exciting. And they're, like, bemoaning the fact that we have to go back to doing race wars. Which, like, this is a plot point that keeps getting brought up in this book, and nobody does anything about it. Like, half the time... In the last couple of books, half the time, like, every time they saw cats were, like, enjoying each other's company, somebody was like, well, we're gonna have to go back to doing race wars eventually, you know, this is nice while it lasted. And now, like, now that we're, like, back to doing race wars, everybody is, like, looking around like, man, why can't we get along like we were doing at the journey? And, like, it's I know that this is just never going to be addressed. This is just, like, I don't know why they're writing this in here. Like, why they're just like, constantly bringing up, oh, yeah, we were friends back in the journey. I wonder why we can't be that way anymore. And, like, just never actually... I don't know,
it's never gonna
doing
be
anything
again.
About it or, like, saying anything about it or whatever. It's the worst. It's just so irritating. But whatever.
Absolutely.
So they talk about some more exciting stuff like, you know, borders. Ooh, Riverclan wants this piece of territory. Fun.
Oh, and the badgers.
And then when they go back, Leafpool, like, falls asleep and she meets Feathertail again.
Feathertail, like, at this point is basically determined to become Spotted Leaf too.
Yeah, right. She wants to be... Yeah. So she goes to Riverclan, and she thinks about how pretty Mothwing is, and Mothwing is, like, talking about the nuances of cat atheism.
It's really funny. Like, I believe that there's something. I just don't think that it's cat gods, which, you know, that might be the first reasonable thing that anybody said in this series so far. But yeah, so there's Mothwing. Okay, so back in Thunderclan, Ashford gets, like, an apprentice, and Squirrelflight becomes, like, genuinely fearful of Brambleclaw because of the absolutely rancid vibes that he has been giving off for, like, the entire last book and a half. Like, this dude is just straight up starting to, like, bully her.
It's the worst.
It's absolutely worst thing.
I can't even read it. Like, the fact that they're considered to be, like, a love interest is bizarre to me. I don't understand how nobody saw this sooner. At least, like, not before the Big Moon Catherine expose. But yeah, so there's Brambleclaw. He's giving off rancid vibes. Leafpool finally gets in contact with Crowfeather, who's like, yo, we should totally meet up. And then all of the medicine cats share, like, a really bad omen and decide to, like, leave instead of talking about it.
Except Leafpool.
And then back in Thunderclan, there's, like, a kitty pet called Daisy, and she arrives with, like, a whole bunch of kittens. Yeah. And half of Thunderclan, for some reason, and I guess by, like, half of Thunderclan, I mean, like...
It's just Spider Leg.
Yeah, it's just Spider Leg, really.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, also Brambleclaw is amongst the dissenters because apparently he's forgotten that he's supposed to be, like, a good guy and one of the protagonists or something like that. But yeah, and then suddenly a Riverclan warrior comes by and is like, Leafpool, Mothwing needs you to come hang out and help with a problem.
Leafpool, Mothwing needs you to come by for a sleepover. It's going to be really fun. We'll have pillow fights and talk about boys. And by boys, I guess I mean girls. Whatever.
She's
I
bi,
guess
I'm pretty sure.
It's boys, because she's into Crowfeather. It's really whatever. I don't understand that plot point either, to be honest.
It's bizarre, yeah.
I don't know. Throughout this entire book, whenever I was reading the Mothwing parts, and I'm sure you agree because I'm the same person.
They had way better chemistry.
Like, it just felt like,
yeah,
come on,
stupid.
Leafpool and Mothwing are just so much more compatible. Like, there's a genuinely interesting conflict of ideology between the two of them that I actually enjoy reading about.
Yeah.
Because I'm reading from the perspective of somebody who disagrees completely with Mothwing, but like as a personal human, I agree completely with Mothwing. But yeah, whatever. So Mothwing comes by, or Leafpool comes by, and she finds that Riverclan has just been like completely decimated by sickness. So she and Mothwing kill a few cats, and they learn the truth behind Feathertail's prophecy that she came by earlier when she was pretending to be Spotted Leaf. And then Leafpool realizes that like she forgot to meet up with Crowfeather, and it's like, oh no, you spent the entire day hanging out with your cool girl boss friend. That's awful. How dare you? So the Thunderclan cats help drive some mean kitty pets out of Shadowclan's territory, and Leafpool comes back to camp, and she's like, she finds out that like Bright Heart over the last few days is being treated like a medicine cat apprentice.
Oh yeah,
and Leafpool is like, well, I guess this means that my clan doesn't want me anymore.
It's the stupidest. This is one of my least favorite plot points from this book, and I guess I'm going to be saying this about like basically every plot point in this book. But like the fact that Leafpool was gone for like 2 days, and apparently that was enough for everybody to treat Bright Heart like she was the new medicine cat is, I mean, for starters, it's ridiculous. And for second starters, it's also hilarious. Like I can definitely see how Bright Heart would become the surrogate medicine cat in that particular instance, and I actually kind of like the plot point where Bright Heart is like trying to find a new role in the clan, because the arrival of Daisy and the subsequent I would say behavior of Cloudtail kind of does leave her in a lurch. Like, I really like how Cloudtail is all concerned about doting on Daisy, and Bright Heart is like concerned because she assumes that this is like some kind of way of saying that Cloudtail doesn't care for her anymore. Yeah. And I'm sure in my heart of hearts that Cloudtail is just looking after Daisy because she reminds him of his mother. Yeah. And you know, he wants to make sure that the kitty pets have a good role in the clan because, you know, that means a lot to him. Yeah. And you know, everything is fine with Bright Heart. But I kind of do love the idea of Bright Heart, you know, like having this kind of crisis of faith where she's like, well, maybe I should I don't know, try to become a medicine cat now. You know, my daughter is growing up. She almost doesn't need me anymore. My husband seems like he's interested in another cat. And, you know, maybe this is the new life for me. But
it seems,
also, I think Leafpool's reaction to this is completely inappropriate and absolutely ridiculous. Because, like, she should know. She's a mature-ish human being.
She's a cat.
Cat human being. Who, you know, even though she's in love with the worst guy, she should understand that, you know, a cat like Bright Heart is not a replacement for an actual medicine cat. But whatever, I guess I'm projecting on top of these cats.
Maybe.
Let's talk about The Gathering, because The Gathering was a really fun part of this book.
Do we have to talk about The Gathering? Okay, so the gatherings in this book are like awful. So over like the last couple of chapters by this point, Thunderclan has helped out Shadowclan, and they've helped out Windclan.
They have not helped out Windclan.
No, they haven't helped out Windclan because Windclan is hostile to them.
Yeah.
But they've helped out Shadowclan and Riverclan. So both Shadowclan and Riverclan are like at the gathering, and they're like, hey, we'd like to give a quick thank you to Thunderclan for like helping us out with these things that we would have genuinely had problems with if Thunderclan hadn't shown up. And then One Star is like, what's wrong with you guys?
How could you do this?
Sucks. They keep butting their nose into everybody's business, and you are bad leaders for paying attention to them.
It's so stupid.
And it's so stupid. He's like I guess he's a jerk now. That's like his plot point, which is just like really frustrating to hear about, especially like after my friend Cora was on the podcast a little while ago.
She was here for the
she mentioned that
it was
One
the Moonrise
Star,
episodes.
or like back when One Whisker was like a warrior, Firestar literally died for him. Like at one point while they were like evacuating Shadowclan, or like he was throwing his life down on the line for him. And now that like One Star is a leader, and like he even has the pressure from Tall Star to be like, hey, we should be friends with other clans. They just decide
so
not
stupid.
to, which is ridiculous. Whatever. We should talk about this later.
Yeah, we should. Let's bring up.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, we gotta get to
go back to the plot synopsis so we can play to the music. So yeah, Leafpool has a falling out with both Squirrelflight and Cinderpelt, which is how you know that your romance is a good one, when literally everybody in your life disagrees with you about this. So then she meets Spotted Leaf at the moon pool, and Spotted Leaf is like, listen to your heart, listen to your pheromones, Leafpool, they'll tell you what's up. And then mentions, in case Leafpool forgot, that she had the hots for Firestar. Because I don't know if any of you guys knew about this. I don't think that it's ever brought up in the books, but actually Spotted Leaf and Firestar had like a thing going on.
Yeah, it was really crazy subtle.
So yeah, Leafpool decides to run off with Crowfeather, and everybody finds out basically immediately. And Squirrelflight is thinking to herself, would I rather hypothetically elope with Ashfeather, a cat who is nice to me and who I actually enjoy the presence of, or would I elope with Brambleclaw, a cat that I have run away with before? And then she decides Brambleclaw for some freaking reason, even though he spent this entire book bullying her and making her actually afraid of him and making her feel bad about him and whatever. And then a bunch of badgers attack, and Sorreltail decides to give birth in a desperate bid for plot relevance.
So, Leafpool and Crowfeather return, as well as Midnight. You guys remember Midnight? She's the ghost. Midnight brings Windclan to help out because One Star is nice again, I guess. And then together they drive the Badgers out, but they end up losing Cinderpelt and some other cat whose name that I have already forgotten because they were mentioned like twice in this book. And also, in like the very last words of the book, because they were saving this for last because they knew everybody would care, Stormfur and Brook also show up again. And in case you've forgotten who Stormfur and Brook are, which I don't know how you could because they're so important, they're Gray Stripe's Kit, and also the cat from the tribe of the Rushing Water that, you know, they love. So, yeah. Okay, so is it cool if I talk about
yeah, sure.
Ashfeather and like the Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight and Leafpool and Crowfeather situation? Because I feel like that's kind of where my attention has drifted.
Really?
Over the course of reading this book and stuff. And
what, you don't care about Stormfur and Brook?
Okay, look, Spencer, nobody cares about Stormfur and Brook, and the more that you pretend that we do,
the
longer this discussion is going to get dragged out past its expiration
I think they're
date.
funny.
So can we just like
look, I think
remove any and all aspersions as to whether or not people care about Stormfur and Brook and continue this discussion like adult men talking about a children's cat book.
All right, if that's what you want.
Thank you. So obviously, you know, there was the romance thing between Brambleclaw, Squirrelflight, and Ashfeather, which is completely unfair, basically on every side.
Yeah, how is Ashfeather supposed to compete with the main character?
For starters, I think that Ashfeather, I know that he becomes a bad guy later because, you know, Warrior Cats fans don't care about spoilers.
Oh my god, they really don't. I was on Twitter the other day, right?
You're on Twitter every day.
Shut up. So I was on Twitter the other day, and I got like a ping from somebody who was talking about the sea shanty. And they were like, hey, by the way, not trying to put anybody on blast, I just think this is funny. So they were like, hey, you should write a work shanty about this one thing that Windclan used to do. And I was like, wait, Windclan used to do that? Sorry, I'm still rereading. I haven't gotten to that part yet. But, you know, that does sound pretty cool. I was like trying to be nice about it. I was like, that does sound pretty cool. You know, there is a song about Windclan that I'm working on, but it's kind of, you know, more about running and stuff, and I'll definitely keep that in mind whenever I get to that part. And then they were like, yeah, thanks for responding. And they went to, like, explain every single, like, plot-relevant nuance to that particular, like, aspect of the Windclan thing. Even though I said I hadn't gotten to that part yet. And it's just like, Wow, I get like the books have been out for a really long time, but it's funny.
Are you gonna shut up so I can talk about Ashfeather now?
Yes, I apologize for interrupting your tangent.
Ashfeather was a good guy in this book. Like, he was not bad. Squirrelflight was like legitimately convinced, thinking about him as a romantic partner. They were basically cat dating. And Brambleclaw, conversely, was like literally bullying Squirrelflight and making her feel unsafe in her own home, and that was really uncomfortable to read.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
He infantilizes her, he yells at her, he makes her feel genuinely afraid, and he spends a lot of time swinging around his warrior clout to make her feel more uncomfortable. It's not an acceptable... I hate reading about it because, you know, I'm thinking about how kids are reading this and how some of them might want to model their behavior after this kind of thing. I don't want little people running around, you know, thinking that this is an acceptable way for a romance to begin or develop, and I don't like the fact that Brambleclaw is still considered to be a good guy despite the fact that he is clearly behaving super poorly.
And like, while this is happening, Ashfeather is actually standing up for Squirrelflight. He is checking in with her to make sure that she's doing okay. He is getting in between Brambleclaw and his, you know, object of malice. And I think that that's a super positive way for somebody to behave. And I find it annoying that midway through the book decides that actually this is a poor thing because it implies that Ashfeather thinks that Squirrelflight can't fight her own battles. I think that Squirrelflight is completely capable of fighting her own battles, and I think that if she does not want Ashfeather to butt in, then she has to communicate that with Ashfeather, which she doesn't do. And so, just like midway through the book, when Squirrelflight, when Leafpool and Crowfeather run away together, Squirrelflight gets this like paragraph where she's like, "Man, I wonder if I would ever run away with someone like Ashfeather." And then she's like, "Nah, but I'd run away with Brambleclaw again. That was pretty good." And it's like, what are you talking about? This is like...
Absolutely, because like, running away with somebody is a grand gesture, and I don't think that a grand gesture should be by any means a metric by which you measure the worth or value of a relationship. I think that it sets a really poor standard because, you know, a grand gesture is a one-time thing, right? You can have many grand, big gestures, but like... It's not indicative by any means of how well a relationship is going to substantiate or, you know, continue and progress, because a relationship isn't, would I run away with this person? A relationship is, would I spend the rest of my life with this person? Which is a really important distinction.
Yeah, it's more down to, like, you know, do I trust this person as a partner? And I'm not going to say that, like, jumping in with both feet doesn't work for some people, because, you know, some people do have successful relationship stories where they're like, yeah, I moved to Myanmar with my wife, who I'd known for about 6 seconds, and then, you know, we lived happily ever after. We had, like, 18 children. Most of them were adopted, and now we both work as marine biologists. Like, that's the thing that probably has happened to some extent, but I am going to say that it creates an unrealistic expectation for your partner if that becomes the standard by which you judge whether or not a relationship is worth having. Like, I'll say this, there are people in my life that I would not move to, you know, run away with. That doesn't seem like a viable option for me, for a lot of those peoples. And a relationship isn't about whether or not I would run away with people. It's more about, like, do I trust them to have our best interests in mind? Do I, you know, trust them to, you know, be a good human person who is good for me? And, you know, if you're creating an unrealistic expectation at the start by asking the question or phrasing the value of a relationship in the way of, you know, will I run away with this person? It's kind of, it can stagnate, and a lot of times it can hinder a burgeoning relationship, which I think is really unfair for just about every party involved. And I feel kind of bad for Ashfeather because, you know, he's got to be compared to that in the mind of Squirrelflight.
Also, can we, like, talk about that thing that Sandstorm says, where Sandstorm is like, hey, what's up? It's me, your mother.
Yes.
Squirrelflight, how have you considered maybe making sure that the boys that are pining after you aren't behaving so irresponsibly and rudely towards each other? Because, like, what was up with that?
Yeah, right? Like,
right?
Why is it her responsibility to make sure that other people behave appropriately?
Sandstorm, telling people not to be involved in a love triangle. That's like one thing.
Ma'am, your hypocrisy. But, well, okay. I do think that Sandstorm in all fairness, has never been involved in a love triangle, unless you kind of count that thing with Spotted Leaf.
Well,
right?
no, there was Dust Pelt and that whole like situation, right, when they were apprentices.
I wouldn't consider that to be a love triangle, right? Because that would imply, I think love triangle as a term implies mutual pining. And Fireheart, if you'll recall, did not really care very much about Sandstorm until it was abundantly clear that she was the only option left, right? Like Cinder, like everybody else in this book series, when they describe love, except for Blue Star, like they've got like a pretty good handle about what it is and how they feel. But with Fireheart, we never really saw that kind of thing. It was just kind of like Dustpelt liked Sandstorm, Sandstorm liked Fireheart. That wasn't like a love triangle, it was a love series of connected lines. And then eventually Sandstorm didn't like Dustpelt, so she was like, no, I never liked you, so what's the point? And then Fireheart was like, alright, I guess I like Sandstorm now, because, Gray Stripe, unfortunately straight, and Spotted Leaf, unfortunately dead.
Well, wouldn't you consider Spotted Leaf to be a love, like in the love triangle then, at the very least? Because like by your definition, right, there's mutual pining. Firestar at this point cares about Spotted Leaf cares about him, and then eventually he starts caring about Sandstorm, and Sandstorm starts caring about him. So there's the like decision gate. 2020. Who's he gonna choose? That feels like love triangle to me, right?
Well, I think where I'm coming from, at least from this perspective, is that like you're right in that he did have to choose one, but you're wrong in that this was any kind of decision that was like relevant, because like,
are you saying he has no agency?
Spotted Leaf was dead at this period of time, and like I'm all for long distance relationships, I've been in one or two. But I think there's a difference between long-distance relationship and relationship between somebody who is alive and dead, right? That seems like too long
I'm
distance.
a man of constant sorrow.
And besides, like, that was kind of, at least, like, in the books, that was more or less, like, done at a point where Starclan was still, like, there was still an argument to be made that Starclan wasn't real, and that it was, like, hallucinations, and that the lives, like, the 9 lives things and the prophecies were all in their imaginations, and it just, like, happened to line up, right? This is before Starclan established itself as like a metaphysical or like an actual physical thing that exists, cat heaven.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. I getcha. Alright, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to Fourtrees, our Warrior Cats community podcast. I've been your host, Spencer Grant. I'd like to thank our guest, Spencer Grant, for joining us for the last little while. You've been a pleasure to have. Fourtrees is recorded live in front of a studio audience at Druids Hollow Studios here in Bristol. Our theme was composed and performed by Spencer Chopin Grant and mixed by Alex Turner. Our graphics and 3D assets were designed by Spencer Diablo Grant, and our editor is Spencer Pagliacci Granta. The Warrior Cat series is written by Erin Hunter and distributed by HarperCollins. Please support the official release. You can find us at the web at spencergrant.co.uk/Fourtrees or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find our YouTube uploads with auto-generated subtitles and audio visualizations at youtube.com/SpencerGrant. Again, I've been Spencer, and you've been beautiful. Bye!